Dancing for the Answers, the track, started with the collaboration between myself and Dan Carey, my producer and friend, in May 2016 in his studio. And we had a very creative and experimental time bringing together all the music of the track, the way the ukulele part interacts with the high guitar lines, the synthesizers. There's some beautiful synths in there. Dan and I played all the instruments together, and we had all the music. And then the journey of making what became my album, Wake Up Now, took me on a different path. So these recordings didn't get finished. And I went to make Wake Up Now in a very live way with the producer Ethan Johns, later in the year 2016. Just before that recording happened in Real World Studios, my son was born, Inca, and a week after his birth, I had this dream. And because we were waking with the baby, throughout the night, I was able to freshly sit with this dream, and in fact reach for my computer, and I just wrote out this dream and kind of captured it very fully. And in this dream, it was a very evocative dream, and it gave me the keys for this piece of music. I was putting the key in the back door of my parents' house when someone called to me over my shoulder, and I turned around, and as I turned around, I realised I was holding this baritone ukulele, and I was playing the riff that is at the centre of Dancing for the Answers. And I turned around, and I was very surprised and quite happy to see a sort of late 1970s low era youngish David Bowie in a quite baggy pink silk shirt with black buttons. And by the time I turned around, he was already enthralled with this little pattern, and he shared his happiness with me, and he was like, "This pattern's amazing." And I was really kind of like, "Hey, David Bowie thinks my pattern's really cool, that's great." And we both really enjoyed this. I repeated the ukulele pattern, and afterwards he said to me a few things, some of which I'll keep secret, but he did say, "You should now take this pattern to the guitar and express this musical structure over the full 6 strings of the guitar with the full guitar shapes, normal chord shapes." So I awoke completely energized by this dream, and the next day I went to my guitar and picked it up, did what the David Bowie of my dreams told me to do, and outpoured this song, which became Transform Your Game, which is the song Transform Your Game on my album Wake Up Now. All these lyrics, and I was really like watching them happen. I often think of myself as the first audience member. Yes, I am creating this music, but also it's creating itself kind of through me, and these words that I don't think I could have thought my way to appeared, through my voice, and they were, "Every day a wonder comes along just the same, and we remain alive to the shimmer of the living rain." And the song went on to talk about my muse and how she's dancing for the answers in the rain. And in a way, there's so much I could say about this song, it comes from a very deep place in me, and it's quite mysterious to me. I can't necessarily wrap it all up in some kind of neat meaning, but certainly the song is about transformation, and it is about a spiritual awakening, I suppose, and it became the song on Wake Up Now called Transform Your Game. Now, Dan and I both felt that these recordings we started in 2016 needed to have some kind of completion and some kind of release. So in the early part of this year, 2018, we went back to his studio, and 2 years later went back to this material we had recorded. And now, of course, I had all of the lyrics that had come via this dream in the interim time. And more than just the lyrics, I had now a very hard-won new sense of freedom and of gratitude, because I had been through the process of releasing the album Wake Up Now, and creating Wake Up Now was a joy, but releasing it seemed to be hurdle after hurdle and an amazingly difficult and stressful period, and I'm very happy and able to say that now, because a lot of for a lot of reasons it was like that. So I lived through that, and I'm happy to say, you know, I kind of got beyond that. And it was at that point that we went back into the studio to finish this track. And I think that was of great benefit to the song Dancing for the Answers, because I was now determined to just make music for myself and determined to just do what the music wants to do and to not be interfered with or by any ideas from the outside world, from what I thought people wanted to hear, or, you know, anything like that. So it was the best attitude with which we could start Dancing for the Answers. And the first thing I did to this piece of music was to say to Dan, let's let it be as long as it wants to be. Let's let it take whatever shape it wants to take. And we had all of these different layers. As you can tell if you know the song, it's a very layered piece of music, I think beautifully so. And we took these layers. There's the ukulele line, there's the guitar line, there's various beautifully worked synthesizer lines from Dan Carey using the Swarmatron synths, and another synth called the Buchla. There's several drum machine patterns, and then there's my vocal in the low range and the falsetto. And we were in the studio, and we had decided we wanted to let the song take whatever shape it wanted to take, but it's actually quite complicated to do that, because when you're looking at the computer screen and you've got all these different parts that you've recorded previously, and you want to reorder them and juggle them and let the structure emerge, it was really quite difficult, and it's quite a mental process. And I was sitting there just behind Dan and his engineer as hours went by as we tried to kind of like reorder all these different parts. And I literally had a kind of eureka moment when I realised the song is called Dancing for the Answers. We are thinking way too much. And we're all sitting down. And I said to Dan, I think we went and had lunch. We went and had a Vietnamese lunch. And over that lunch I said, I think we need a different approach this afternoon. We need to, A, be on our feet, honour this track. We need to be standing up. And I think we need to do it a little bit more like mixing records used to be. I'm thinking of like King Tubby, you know, or no, should I say Lee Scratch Perry. He's famous for being very creative in the studio with all of the different parts of his dub mixes. And Dan Carey knew exactly what I meant. So rather than using at the computer screen, which was making the process too mental, we moved away from the screen and we put available on the mixing desk all of these different parts. And we pressed go, and Dan and I, shoulder to shoulder at the mixing desk, mixed up the high guitar lines which opened the track, and we let them revolve around for as long as they wanted to do before we then bring in the ukulele, before then he brings in the synthesizers, and we basically we performed the mix. That's the word, we performed the mix. It's about being in the moment and actually playing the studio. You play the studio. The studio is a big instrument and you perform it. And that is what gave us Dancing for the Answers.